The most advanced kitchen in 1910 had a room just for flour. Not a cabinet. A room. Kitchens were once engineered around problems we've since forgotten: vermin, open flame, ice delivery, and the daily management of things that could kill you if you got them wrong. This video covers the kitchen features that were once standard and are now gone. Stay for number 13. It wasn't removed because it stopped working. It was removed because it worked too well. A Pie safe was a freestanding cabinet with punched tin panels on the doors and sides. The tin wasn't decorative, it was the mechanism. Tiny perforations allowed air to circulate while blocking flies and insects from reaching whatever was cooling inside. It stopped being built when screened windows and refrigeration removed both problems it had been designed to manage. Appalachian versions had hand-punched tin in geometric patterns, stars, circles, wheat stalks that were functional and considered art. The ones that worked best looked the most beautiful. Nobody planned that. The icebox had a drain. That detail gets left out of every nostalgic account of pre-refrigeration kitchens. A copper pipe ran from the base of the box, through the kitchen floor, down to a drip pan in the basement. Melted ice had to go somewhere. It disappeared when mechanical refrigeration replaced ice delivery, sealed units, no melt, no drain required. A household that forgot to empty the drip pan came downstairs to standing water. The icebox worked perfectly. The margin for human error was just very small. A cook carrying a stockpot of boiling water down a steep back stair in the dark. That's where the dumbwaiter came from. The part that still bothers me, we took it out of residential construction at the exact moment we should have been putting it back in. Assisted living facilities, which face the identical problem of moving hot food between floors, spend significant money on retrofitted lifts that do the same thing the dumbwaiter did in 1890, worse. It stopped being built when single-story ranch homes became dominant after the Second World War. We eliminated the stairs, so we didn't need the safety device. We just built houses where the problem couldn't occur. The Hoosier cabinet, manufactured between 1900 and 1920 by the Hoosier Manufacturing Company of New Castle, Indiana, was sold as a kitchen laboratory. Built-in flour sifter, sugar bin, pull-out enamel work surface, spice rack. The sifter wasn't an accessory. It was structural. It stopped being made when commercial milling began pre-sifting flour. The cabinet's central function became redundant. They sold it as a scientific advance. The science it replaced was more reliable. Nothing fails. That's the pattern. Every item from this point forward was removed not because it stopped working, but because something else became cheaper to sell. Wooden kitchen countertops sometimes had knife slots cut directly into the edge. A lined channel, blades down, handles flush with the surface. The knives were stored inside the counter itself. It stopped being built when laminate countertops made it structurally impossible to cut channels into the surface without compromising the material. Nobody replaced it with anything. They replaced the counter and the storage solution disappeared as a side effect. The knife block on your counter right now takes up the same space the slot was designed to eliminate. One of the items left on this list was removed from American kitchens by a single lobbying campaign. We'll get to which one. Post-war American kitchen design included a wall cabinet that folded open to reveal a full-size ironing board. The outlet was built in. You opened a door, the board swung out, you worked. When you were done, it folded back flush with the wall. It stopped being installed when permanent press fabrics, introduced in the early 1960s, reduced ironing frequency enough that a dedicated built-in stopped making economic sense. Those cabinet shells still exist in millions of American homes. If you've ever opened a kitchen cabinet and found a flat wooden panel with a hinge mechanism and no shelving, that's what you found. The next three items weren't forgotten. They were replaced by products that needed to be purchased again every year. You're holding it. Unglazed on the inside, rough under your fingers, slightly cool. The outside glazed and heavy. The lid fits with very little gap. Not sealed, just close. The bread goes in after it cools. The crock absorbs excess moisture when humidity is high and releases it when the air dries out. Soft for 4 to 6 days. No bag, no plastic. Just ceramic doing what ceramic does. It stopped being used when sliced commercial bread required airtight packaging for distribution, not for freshness, for transport. The crock outperformed the plastic bag on every measure of texture and stalling. The bag won because it could travel across a supply chain and the crock couldn't. We didn't choose the better product. We chose the one that fit the system. This one never made sense to me. Not the ceiling, the claim that justified it. Pressed tin ceilings were installed above cooking areas from the 1890s through the 1910s on the argument that tin was sanitary. That word appeared in trade publications, contractor catalogs, and the lobbying materials of the pressed tin industry. Easier to clean than plaster, impervious to grease and steam. Here's what pressed tin actually does above a stove. It traps grease in the decorative relief patterns pressed into the surface. The same features that made it attractive made it impossible to clean. Grease built up. Mold followed. The argument was marketing. The campaign worked for 3 decades. It stopped being installed when sanitation concerns shifted toward smooth, washable surfaces in the 1920s. The ceilings are still in buildings across the country. Nobody put up a disclaimer. 2 items left. Both standard in almost every American kitchen built before 1950. Neither exists in any kitchen built after 1980. The pass-through was an aperture cut between the kitchen and dining room. Plates went through, dishes came back. The person cooking never entered the dining room. The people eating never saw the kitchen. It stopped being built when domestic service collapsed after the Second World War, and the architectural logic behind it, a household divided between those who cooked and those who ate, no longer applied. We sealed the openings and called what came next an open floor plan. We didn't eliminate the performance. We just changed who was meant to be watched. Turnips, carrots, apples, cabbage, potatoes, 6 months, sometimes 8. 0 electricity. 0 cost after construction. The problem with the root cellar wasn't technical. It was commercial. A trapdoor in the kitchen floor opened to a below-grade chamber set below the frost line, using ground temperature to hold between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. No refrigeration, just earth. Building codes began phasing out below-floor food storage access in the 1950s and 1960s, the same decade the refrigerator became a standard household purchase, the same decade appliance manufacturers needed residential adoption to keep pace with production. Whether those 2 facts are connected by causation or coincidence is a question that hasn't been resolved. What is documented is the timeline. The ground temperature under your house hasn't changed. Every item in this video was functional. Not one failed on its own terms. What replaced them was cheaper to manufacture, easier to sell, and harder to maintain. The kitchens we inherited were built around permanence. The kitchens we build now are built around replacement. Whether that's progress depends entirely on who's selling you the replacement. Drop a comment. If you've ever found something in an old kitchen, a door, a pipe, a sealed cabinet, and had no idea what it was for. If you want more of this, subscribe. There's a whole house worth of these left.